In January 2021, iRobot was on top of the world. The company behind the Roomba had just watched its stock hit record highs. For nearly 2 decades, Roomba didn't just dominate robot vacuums, it was the robot vacuum. The brand had become a verb. If it cleaned your floor automatically, people called it a Roomba. At one point, iRobot controlled more than 60% of the global market and nearly 75% in the United States. They had sold over 40 million robots worldwide. They were profitable, they had premium pricing, and they believed the future of the smart home ran through them. Then everything collapsed. By 2024, their stock had fallen more than 90% from its peak. A $1.7 billion Amazon acquisition fell apart under regulatory pressure. Revenue plunged. Hundreds of employees were laid off. And eventually, the company that invented the category was pushed to the brink, fighting for survival in a market it created. This is how iRobot went from revolutionary innovator to takeover target in just a few brutal years. The story actually begins in 1990. Inside the MIT Artificial Intelligence Lab, iRobot was founded by roboticists Colin Engel, Helen Greiner, and Rodney Brooks. But they were not building household gadgets. Their early business was military robotics. Their PackBot was deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan to defuse bombs. These machines were cutting-edge but niche. Governments only bought limited quantities, and research costs were massive. The pivot came in 2002. The founders realized that the same navigation technology used for military robots could be simplified and sold to consumers. The Roomba launched at around $200. Critics laughed. Many retailers thought it was a gimmick, but consumers loved it. By 2004, iRobot had sold 1 million units. By 2011, they were publicly traded and becoming a staple of modern homes. The company built what looked like an unbreakable moat. They accumulated more than 1,500 patents, covering movement, docking, navigation, and cleaning systems. They aggressively sued competitors. In 2017, they won a major patent case against a Chinese rival at the U.S. International Trade Commission. Cheap imports were blocked. Their premium pricing model survived. But while they were defending their castle, the ground was shifting beneath them. iRobot made a massive strategic bet on camera-based navigation called vSLAM. Their robots used upward-facing cameras to map rooms. It was advanced but expensive and required lighting. Meanwhile, Chinese competitors like Roborock, Ecovacs, and Dreamy adopted LiDAR laser mapping systems. LiDAR worked in the dark. It mapped faster. It became cheaper over time, and it allowed competitors to leapfrog iRobot technologically. By 2019, you could buy a robot vacuum from a Chinese manufacturer that vacuumed and mopped simultaneously, emptied its own dustbin, and used LiDAR mapping for hundreds of dollars less than a Roomba. Shark entered the space aggressively, undercutting prices. The premium aura of Roomba began to fade. Then came the pandemic boom. In 2020, demand for home electronics surged. Revenue climbed to around $1.4 billion. But beneath the surface, margins were shrinking. Component costs were rising. Competition was intensifying. iRobot responded by ramping up inventory, expecting demand to continue. It did not. As supply chains normalized and stimulus money faded, sales slowed dramatically. In 2022, revenue fell to roughly $1.18 billion. The company posted significant losses. Market share continued slipping. Meanwhile, competitors were innovating faster and cheaper. That same year, Amazon announced it would acquire iRobot for $1.7 billion. The deal made strategic sense. Amazon wanted deeper integration with Alexa and access to the spatial mapping data Roombas collected inside millions of homes. The vision was clear: a smart home ecosystem where Amazon understood not just what you bought, but the layout of your living room. But regulators saw something else. The Federal Trade Commission and the European Commission launched investigations. They questioned whether Amazon could unfairly prioritize Roombas on its marketplace, and whether it would gain too much insight into consumer households. Privacy concerns exploded. Critics asked why one of the largest tech companies in the world should know the dimensions of your bedroom. The review dragged on for 18 months. During that time, iRobot was stuck in limbo. They could not radically restructure. They could not aggressively slash prices. They were waiting for rescue. Meanwhile, Roboroc's revenue surged past $2 billion. Chinese brands gained global market share. Innovation cycles accelerated. iRobot was burning cash. In 2023, the company reported a net loss of over $285 million. They cut approximately 31% of their workforce. Founder Colin Angle stepped down as CEO after more than 3 decades. Then, in early 2024, the European Commission signaled it would block the Amazon acquisition. Amazon walked away, paying a $94 million termination fee. For Amazon, it was negligible. For iRobot, it was devastating. The stock plunged nearly 50% in a single day. Without Amazon's capital injection, iRobot faced mounting debt, declining sales, and intensifying price wars. Their once dominant US market share had dropped significantly, while competitors controlled large portions of Europe and Asia. Perhaps the most ironic twist is that the company that once sued Chinese manufacturers ended up outsourcing manufacturing to partners in Asia to cut costs. The innovator had become dependent on the ecosystem that outcompeted it. The core mistake was not inventing too early. It was relying too long on being the premium pioneer. iRobot believed patents would protect them. They believed brand recognition would justify higher prices. They believed mapping data would become a gold mine. Instead, hardware became commoditized, LiDAR became cheaper, and consumers prioritized features and price over legacy. iRobot created the robot vacuum industry. They proved people would trust a machine to roam freely inside their homes. They put over 40 million autonomous robots into circulation. But in doing so, they opened the floodgates. Once the technology matured and supply chains optimized globally, the barriers to entry collapsed. The downfall of iRobot is not just about one company. It is a warning about what happens when innovation becomes a commodity, when premium positioning meets price competition, when regulators block your exit strategy, and when the market you create evolves faster than you do. For years, Roomba symbolized the future, a self-driving vacuum quietly mapping your home. Today, the company fights to remain relevant in a world filled with smarter, cheaper, and faster rivals. They built the category, they dominated it, and then they lost control of it. That is the brutal cost of being first. If you enjoyed this breakdown of how iRobot went from industry pioneer to near collapse, make sure you hit subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest business rises and failures. Because the next billion-dollar story might be a company you think is untouchable right now.